Welcome guys to probably my most ambitious and most time invested video so far. Tekken 8 is on the horizon and I just wanted to make a video I've always wanted to make. Tekken is a series that is rooted in my heart. No matter how angry or frustrated I get, I always come back to play it. And Tekken 8 will be the turning point for me, and I will hope to pump out regular content on it. With that being said, let's go ahead and go back to the start of the first Iron Fist tournament. There is no official bracket on the first tournament. We don't know who won against certain people that aren't already mentioned in the lore. So I have taken it upon myself to make what I believe is the official completed bracket based on the lore. Before we get started though, I do have some disclaimers. Number 1, some matches are based mostly on speculation. I did my best to consider certain matchups that would mostly be connected with the story, but at the end of the day, certain matches were based on what I could believe at the time. Number 2, there is no official conclusion on what style of bracket the original tournament was used. So in this video, I will actually present a single and a double elimination bracket. Whichever one you think is the best, or whichever one you think it should go off of, go ahead and put it down in the comments. Number 3, there may be some lore that I missed, and I would appreciate any feedback on what is known and evidence to also show that it happened. I'm not perfect. I do love Tekken. I geek out on it a lot. I get mad when people use the wrong names. But at the end of the day, I don't know everything. So if you know something about the original tournament, go ahead and put it down in the comments as well. And also a way that I could actually find that. Number 4, the matches themselves may not be the best to dictate how an actual fight would go between each fighter. I did my best to try to make the fights as accurate as I could possibly think, but at the end of the day, this video took a really long time to do, and some of the moves I just couldn't perform. And so you'll see it once we go into the matches of who would win in what fight. But this video took a long time, guys, to make, and I would definitely appreciate if you could just subscribe and like the video now, since it's quick to do right now. And some fights really took a long time to pass. But let's go ahead and get right into the action. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is actually show you the brackets that I have. So according to the lore, everybody's basically final boss before Heihachi is actually someone that they had fought in the tournament. So to make it easy on the brackets for both the single and double elimination, I just went ahead and put them as the first bout for both the single elimination and the double elimination. Like I said, each person's, I think it's stage 8, is someone that they are canonically supposed to fight in the tournament. So, being that also the matches are a little bit hard to set up, I went ahead and put them all first round against who they are supposed to be going against. Okay, so right here, right now, is the double elimination bracket. As you'll see, we have everybody lined up and ready to go. Heihachi has his own grand finals name, and the reason why that is because there's actually 17 total fighters, including Heihachi. But since Heihachi is the only person you fight at the very end as the boss, I put him right here, ready to take on whoever wins. the winner's final. Now, some of you already know who's that's supposed to be. Some of you don't, and you're very curious to see, and some of you just want to see how the bracket turns out. But since Heihachi doesn't really have his own opponent that he goes against, now some people would like to mention Devil, and we're just not going to include him at all, because first of all, he's not really brought up in the first tournament anyways. No, it's not until the second tournament that he's really more prominent. But of course, if someone falls out of the winner's bracket, we do have our loser's bracket. And then we have something called the loser's finals. And the winner of the loser's finals actually goes up here. You'll see why that's important later, and I can explain that. But now let's go on to the single elimination bracket right here. So basically everything's set up the exact same, except what you'll notice is that some positions have actually changed. And their positions have changed based on lore. Yes, there is some lore to the brackets of placements. And so we'll get to that later, and we'll see why some people had changed and some people have not. And the importance of who's supposed to fight who. Okay? But the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and we're going to start doing each individual matches, and after we do a full first round, I'm going to update the bracket, and then we'll see what it's supposed to look like. Okay? So here we go with the first fight. Here is Kazuya versus Lee. Fun fact, these guys are actually brothers. See, Kazuya is actually blood related to Heihachi, while Lee is actually the adopted son. Heihachi found Lee and saw him as a prodigy martial artist and took him under his wing to make him basically the rival to Kazuya. Heihachi doesn't actually care for Lee at all, just wants Kazuya to get stronger. This one right here is kind of one of my better fights to kind of show who was supposed to win. And there we go right there. Kazuya wins the first round, and he's going to move on in the bracket. So here we go with the next round. We got Jack versus P-Jack here. There's one thing that I noticed is that Jack is kind of stupid in this game. I was constantly running into him. The computer was definitely just destroying me, and this ended up being one of my fastest times to actually clear the game in order to unlock P-Jack here. But as you can see, he's just got the range. Even P-Jack had the range, and Jack is just gonna go ahead and take the first win here and move on. So moving right along, we have Michelle Chang versus Kunimitsu, and fun fact, Kunimitsu actually entered the tournament to steal the Native American treasure that Heihachi had actually pillaged, while Michelle Chang here is actually exacting revenge on Heihachi. She's tired of him bullying the Native Americans, and in the lore we had Michelle Chang actually easily defeat Kunimitsu like we see here, and she is going to go ahead and go on to the next round. Next up, we have Yoshimitsu versus Ganryu. Now, Yoshimitsu was actually a fan of Ganryu. One of the things that Ganryu was really good at was sumo, obviously, and he was going to become the Yokozuna of sumo, but unfortunately, his antics and tactics got him kicked out of the sumo world. So instead, he decides to join the Iron Fist tournament to prove his strength. Well, Yoshimitsu is also sort of Robin Hood of this series, and you know, the Robin Hood person does best. He beats Ganryu and then steals his money. Now moving on to the next battle here, we have Nina versus Anna. These two are actually sisters, and Nina here is actually drugged right now and is basically told that she needs to kill Heihachi, which is the organizer of the Iron Fist tournament that they're in right now. Anna, well, she just wants to get back at Nina. But unfortunately, it's not going to happen, and Nina's going on to the next round. So now we've come to a point in the bracket it's going to get kind of weird. Wang and Law do fight each other, but their fight actually ends in a draw. So a draw doesn't really help out a double elimination bracket, and kind of does for a single elimination bracket. You'll see soon enough. So I'm going to just assume that if they end in a draw, what happens is that they flip a coin. And I said that Law basically wins, and he's going to go on to the next round. Okay guys, we have another rivalry here. We have King versus Armor King. Now, they have been rivalries since King was a rookie in the wrestling world. In fact, King actually crushed Armor King's eye. So right now, King is fighting to get money for his orphanage, while Armor King is actually joining the tournament to crush King and to prove himself as the best wrestler. So we're going to see King go ahead and take the win here. He is definitely better, and he's going to move on to the next round. Okay, now for the one you've all been waiting for. It is Paul versus Kuma. Paul, the first person to fight a bear. Everyone else was apparently scared, and he definitely was not. He wanted to show that he's the strongest in the universe. And he's just going to go ahead and take him out. Moving on to the next round. Nothing to see here. I've gone ahead and updated the bracket, so let's go ahead and take a look at it and see what we think here. So first of all, we have Kazuya against Jack in the next round, Michelle against Yoshimitsu, Nina against Law, gonna say one off a coin toss, or however they want to decide that, but we got Nina versus Law here. Then we have King versus Paul. That's gonna be a good match right there. But we'll also go down to the losers bracket here, and we see that we have Lee versus P Jack here. We got Kunimitsu versus Ganryu, Anna versus Wong, and Armor King versus Kuma. Now, whoever comes out on top in the losers finals will get a chance to battle in the winners finals, and the winners will go against Heihachi. Now, let's talk about the differences between the double elimination and the single elimination. So the double elimination looks like a standard bracket. However, in the single elimination, we have a little bit of difference here. Paul is already in to the semifinals here. Now, what happened? So, in my grand scheme of the Iron Fist tournament, the idea is to find the best fighter in the world. You can't find the best fighter in the world if he draws with someone else. That makes no sense. He wouldn't be the best then. So, in my understanding of the Iron Fist tournament, what would happen is that Heihachi would be like, you both suck. So therefore, you're both eliminated from the tournament. So as we'll see, we have Kazuya versus Jack again here, but in this time, Law does not advance, and instead they are both disqualified, while Paul, after beating Kuma, has a free shot all the way up to the semis. But everything else is going to be the same. We have Michelle and Yoshimitsu, Nina and King here in the single elimination bracket. So that's how we're going to start off. We'll get the second round going here in a second, but take a minute. Breathe that your guy didn't make it to the next round. It's okay. You will be fine. In the double elimination, they still have a chance. Okay? Now, I'm going to update the losers bracket. Here is the sad news. I have to do full speculation on all of these fights right here. After we finish these rounds right here, and then update their spots, I will also update these guys' spots as well. Unfortunately, in the game, you can't actually fight a unlockable character with another unlockable character. It just can't happen. So, I won't be able to show you guys footage of these fights, but I will just go ahead, push them on through, and we'll cry about it later. Okay? So let's go ahead and get the next round underway. So now starting off with the next round here, we got Kazuya versus Jack. This one's actually really interesting here, and there's a reason why it's put right here. You see, Kazuya's at this tournament not only to kill Heihachi, but also to take over the company and basically have world domination. Well, the manufacturers of Jack caught wind of this plan and actually sent Jack to the tournament specifically to eliminate Kazuya. And so I thought, hey, why not have these two go and battle it out and, have basically Kazuya come out on top and move on to the next round. But moving right along, we have Michelle versus Yoshimitsu here. Michelle just beat Kunimitsu, so I thought it would be quite appropriate to actually have Yoshimitsu be her next opponent here, being that Kunimitsu and Yoshimitsu once were part of the same clan until Kunimitsu got kicked out because Yoshimitsu was like, you're not part of us, you're an actual thief. And well, Yoshimitsu's going to take the win this time. So this next fight here doesn't have any connection whatsoever, but I thought it would only be fair of how I set up the bracket and who's the winner going to be as well, because Law and Wong kind of drew. So I think Nina here taking the win, moving on, is only the best route. Now, I'm not going to lie, this fight is a little bit boring. I'm just not skilled enough to make this anticipated fight any better. I know that in an actual fight, these two would just be going crazy at each other. One's the best wrestler, the other one is just a super powerful judo champ. Like, this should be a better fight than what I showed. Okay, with everything updated, we now have a new bracket here. So, going for the double elimination bracket here, we have Kazuya, Yoshimitsu, Nina, and Paul all in the semifinals here of the winners finals. And then dropping down, we have some new updates to the losers bracket. So I'll go each individual match one by one, kind of explain my reasoning of why it's updated like this. So of course, King, Law, Michelle, and Jack were all pushed down into the losers bracket, so they get that one extra spot. But why Lee over P Jack, why Kunimitsu, and why Wong, why Kuma? So let's start off with Lee and P Jack here. So P Jack, prototype Jack, is basically an inferior version of Jack in almost every way possible. Lee here is a complete almost near perfect rival to Kazuya. Not exact, of course, but Lee is a extreme competitor and martial artist, so he's just going to go ahead and take the win over P-Jack here. Kunimitsu and Ganryu. Now, Ganryu actually, I'm going to go a little bit into his character. Well, he just had all of his stuff stolen from Yoshimitsu, and his goal was to be the strongest person. Now, he's really susceptible to mood swings, especially emotionally. I'm going to go off the limb here that, he just not having a good day, emotional swings got to him. Kunimitsu just basically here in the tournament trying to steal some Native American heritage. No need for Kunimitsu to at all lose any focus. So I'm just going to say Kunimitsu is just going to go ahead and take their win over Ganryu. Whether it'd be close or not, I'm not entirely sure, but we're just going to go ahead and say that Kunimitsu gets the win here. Anna and Wong. Now, Wong is in this tournament because he doesn't really trust Heihachi anymore. He trusts Heihachi when Heihachi's father had passed away. But now Wong doesn't really believe so and enters the tournament, so he's kind of got a purpose and motive. Anna, on the other hand, she joined the tournament just to mess with Nina. So we're looking at basically another I have a motive, the other one doesn't have a motive. I mean, whether Anna even shows up to the match is questionable already. So we're just going to say Wong just going to go ahead and take this match right here. Whether Anna even showed up or whether she even fought, you make the decision on that one. Armor King versus Kuma. Now this one right here, I might get a little bit of flack for it, but let me tell you why. In the lore of Paul. He is, in his little backstory, he is the only person who was insane enough to fight a bear and win. And I'm going to go off the idea of insane enough as a person to fight a bear and win. So in this regard, I'm going to say that either Armor King did not fight, did not want to fight, or just didn't win against Kuma. Kuma here is a bear, sure, but he's also trained in martial arts under Heihachi. He is actually Heihachi's pet. Heihachi has a pet bear. That is what Kuma is. So we're just going to go ahead and say Kuma just got the win over Armor King. Again, one of those, whether he fought or not, or just simply lost. That's up for you to decide. But now we have an updated double elimination bracket here. But now, let's check out the single elimination bracket. This is where it's going to get a little bit interesting. So the bracket for the single elimination, I did kind of mess with it a little bit here to kind of fit what I was looking for. So as I was doing this video, I did a little bit more research to study in, and I decided to actually switch Paul and King's position in the bracket. Now it doesn't really do anything now, but as you can see, we do have a spot open right here, which is Nina and Paul. Well, fortunately, we will have that fight right here in the double elimination bracket. So I'm just going to kind of wait and update it all at the same time. Since the single elimination bracket's a little bit easier to update, we will actually update the double elimination primarily, and then fill in the single elimination when we need to. But going back to the single elimination, we're also going to add a little spot here for basically third and fourth place consolation. Going to bump these two here into that little consolation here. So what I have noticed was that the winner of the Iron Fist tournament gets the opportunity to go against Heihachi. So therefore, if you win the whole tournament here, you get the opportunity to fight Heihachi. So not necessarily the winner of, who passes through and then goes against Heihachi is the winner of Iron Fist tournament. It's going to be a little complicated, but I'll explain a little bit later. There's a reason for it in some people's lore. So now that I've caught you up a little bit, now that we've kind of see what's going on here, we're going to go ahead and start doing some of these loser bracket matches, try to get them pushed on so that we can go ahead and get these matches set up for here. So let's get it going. Okay guys, so I thought it would be only fitting that we did the Paul versus Nina matchup, since they are in both the double and single elimination brackets, and in order to progress the bracket, I think it would be best to start off with those as well. This match doesn't have any story in particular, but there is at least one character that needs to progress in order to keep the story going. So it's only fitting that these two would actually go against each other. It's a really close match there, but Paul is going to take the win and move on to the next round. But moving right along into the losers bracket now. So each losers bracket will be essentially a main character going against an unlockable character. Now this one here was a little bit tough to figure out, but based on what I believe and how the story would go, this is how the losers bracket will start out with. So of course we have Lee and King here. A very tough battle between these two. But here at the end, we are going to have King actually beat Lee and move on to the next round, but it's definitely a close match. However, moving right along here, we got Kunimitsu versus Law. Again, another battle with an unlockable character versus a character from the original lineup. There is no story between these two. Like I said, originally Law and Wong actually drew in their original match. And other than that, Law doesn't actually have too much of a story to go with that. But neither does Kunimitsu, because Kunimitsu mentions her humiliating loss to Michelle, but really nothing else after that. So we're going to go ahead and have Law win this first round. Now, speaking of Michelle, we are going to have her go against Wong here in the loser's bracket. Just kind of how the loser's bracket lined up and how the double elimination bracket was already set. So honestly, I'm pretty happy with how the loser's bracket is kind of spacing out here, because I think it's quite fitting that Michelle would have Kunimitsu, Yoshimitsu, and then Wong as her next opponent, being that Wong has a similar playstyle as her. And so Michelle's going to go ahead and take the win over Wong. But now we are going with Kuma versus Jack. Very fitting, because Paul was the only person insane enough to actually fight Kuma and win, but it said nothing about a robot fighting Kuma and also taking the dub. So this here is going to go to Jack. But now that we're done with the losers bracket, we're going to jump back up to the winners bracket of the double elimination, just so that we can even that out a little bit. We have Kazuya versus Yoshimitsu here, and both of them have very good motives, a very good story into the Iron Fist tournament number 1 here. Yoshimitsu just trying to distract so that his crew can steal the prize money, while Kazuya, he's got a whole motivation behind him and he's going to take the win. Okay guys, back to the bracket here. We're in the double elimination bracket, and I have to admit, I like how it's shaping up right now. We have a lot of fights that are speculation, but they make sense in who's supposed to win the fights. Especially when we come down here to the losers bracket, I really like the way that it's going right now. There may be a fight or two that I'm kind of stretching, and a fight or two then which I'm like, yeah, but however, I think it's kind of fitting along with the lore really well. Again, you know, let me know in the comments if there is some type of lore that I'm missing that pertains to the first tournament. But based on everything that you know, I've researched and looked around, I really like how this is going. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get the losers bracket actually filled out. That way we can get the double elimination bracket actually caught up with the single elimination bracket, because right now the single elimination bracket's a little bit ahead. So I'm not going to show that just yet until we get the double elimination bracket caught up, and then we'll start to do those fights at the same time again. So let's go ahead and get the losers bracket filled out here, and then try to get the single elimination bracket and the double elimination bracket at the same spot. So moving on into the losers bracket here, you can definitely see that I have started to reach a point to where I didn't really care too much about the matches. Some matches were just too hard for me, and I'm just not skilled enough, but I am a Tekken nerd, so I did know something already. That is with King. So King in Tekken 1 was actually broken because he had basically a frame trap with the hammer fist. If you were to block it, you would be in a state that you were like dazed. Well, you could do another hammer fist and that would actually hit, even though you blocked the first one. And so it's a frame trap that I learned, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try it out, and it actually works. Okay, so this next fight is very interesting one. It really could have gone either way for me, but I basically used the bracket to kind of tell me. Jack here went against a machine, a bear, and then Kazuya, whereas Michelle went against basically 2 ninjas and a copycat of herself. So I thought it would be fitting, because Jack here is a powerhouse and literally a robot, that he would take the win here. Okay, staying in the losers bracket here, we have King versus Yoshimitsu here. Another pretty uniconic bout between these two. Of course, I'm still trying to do the little frame trap in this fight as well, which basically means that King here is actually going to take the win pretty easily over Yoshimitsu. So now we're doing the other semifinal match in the losers bracket here. This one here, just like the King and Yoshimitsu, it's one of those like can go either way type of deals. But I thought it would be only fitting that Jack here, he's a mad powerhouse versus Nina, who's just a regular assassin. So I thought it would only be best that Jack would continue on and beat Nina. Now we have the finals of the losers bracket here, King versus Jack. Now both these two are juggernauts in their own right. King is actually a very powerful world champion wrestler, while Jack is basically the ultimate robot here. So, but even though he is the ultimate robot, we are going to have to give it to King here, and he's going to win the loser bracket. Meanwhile, on the winner's side here, we're going to have Kazuya versus Paul. Winner of this is going to go to the next round into basically the finals of the winner's bracket. Right here, we've got Paul putting the hurting on Kazuya right now, almost killing him right there. Kazuya finally getting some hits in right here. Ooh, knocks him up in the air. Double pistons and finishes it off with a low. He's moving on to the next round. Alright guys, with all those matches done, this is how the bracket is shaping out. We have Kazuya just beating out Paul here, going into the winners finals. Paul gonna knock down into the losers finals here. Gonna go against King, who went through a gauntlet to get here. Well, first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and get the losers finals done. We could have another Paul Kazuya fight here. We could have a Kazuya King. We haven't had a Kazuya King fight in the double elimination bracket yet, so we could get that going. And then, of course, the winner of the winners finals will go against Heihachi. I won't show you the single elimination bracket just yet. What we're going to do is first we're going to finish up the losers finals to get the winners finals all set up, and then we'll do the semis for the single elimination bracket. That way the double elimination bracket and the single elimination bracket will be exactly the same, and then we'll be all caught up. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the matches. Okay, so starting off, we will go into the single elimination bracket and start finishing off the semifinals. First match we got here is Kazuya versus King, two powerhouses. King, of course, the champion wrestler, versus Kazuya, the boy who wants revenge. This fight here is actually one of the better fights I was able to kind of set up, even though it was a little bit more one-sided, but in the end it came out pretty well, and Kazuya's moving on to the next round. So now we're in the second match here of the single elimination. We have Paul versus Yoshimitsu. I'm gonna be honest, I actually didn't have Yoshimitsu doing this well initially, but as I was building the bracket and as it was continuing on, surprisingly enough, he just happened to make it all the way to the semifinals here. I thought maybe he might drop off a little bit sooner, but according to the lore and how it's all set up, Yoshimitsu would have made it this far, going against Paul and eventually losing to him in the semis. But now we're going back to the double elimination bracket, to the losers finals, where we have a rematch between King and Paul. King coming out strong, putting hurting on Paul right now. Ooh, gonna be really close here. Paul trying to put on some damage, trying to make up some of that loss of damage there. He's gonna do some pokes and end it on a power fist to the midsection here. Very powerful punch. He's gonna win and go back to the winners finals. Okay guys, now we're doing the losers finals for the single elimination. King lost against Paul in the losers in the double elimination, but let's see if he pulls it out here in the single elimination. Yoshimitsu, big time show here in the finals. Yoshimitsu doing really well in this tournament right now. Let's see if he can pull it off. Started off kind of slow, but kind of getting it back now. Putting the pressure on King. King going back to that frame trap there, but getting kicked. It's going to be a really close one, and King's going to pull it away with a low kick, and King is going to win the losers finals of the single elimination bracket. Okay guys, we are all caught up on both brackets here. So this is exactly how it was supposed to turn out for each bracket here. Kazuya and Paul in the winners finals, both duking it out just to get to the grand finals. King here is going to be the losers finals winner in the single elimination, and then the loser in the double elimination. And why that is important is that King actually gets third place in this tournament. So that's why it was very important that King make it all the way in both brackets. Now, of course, in single elimination, it's hard to judge that, which is why I created a whole new losers finals here so that we'd have a first, second, third, and a fourth place. So Yoshimitsu right here, as of right now, in the official bracket that I have created, was the fourth place finisher for the original Tekken tournament. Now, whether that's true or not is just kind of how the bracket turned out to be. But in the double elimination, it's actually not going to show at all. It's only going to show King at third place. Again, there was no other place past third place that was shown. There was no fourth, fifth, or sixth in any of the lore. So that's just kind of how the bracket played out. But we are going to have Kazuya versus Paul again in the winners finals here. It's very important that these guys are going against each other yet again. And we will see how this turns out. And the winner, of course, is going to go against Heihachi for the Grand Marble. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the Paul Kazuya fight, and then the winner of that is going to go against Heihachi. And it might be surprising for some of you, and some of you it may not be surprising. You might already know the whole story, but let's go ahead and get those matches out the way. Now we have the finals underway, and we have Kazuya versus Paul. Another rematch here, but fun fact, they actually fought once before the tournament even started. In fact, they fought to a draw. So that should show you how strong these opponents are. Paul had fought a bear and won. Kazuya literally beat an adopted son that was trained to beat him, or essentially rival him. So these two are extreme powerhouses of their own right. And we have Kazuya here going to take the win again. A close call yet again, but Kazuya just going to just jab him in the face, take the win, and go against Heihachi. And welcome, guys, to the grand finals. We have Kazuya versus Heihachi. Two powerhouses here. Kazuya just won the tournament. Now he gets the opportunity to fight Heihachi, basically to get revenge for his dad throwing him off of a cliff. So, yeah, you might hold some grudges there. Now, Heihachi, he puts on some serious punishment early on. Kazuya is going to take it away with the double pistons here. Good old double pistons going to help him win the game here. And that is how the tournament plays out, ladies and gentlemen. That's basically how it goes. And let's go ahead and bring up the brackets just to see what it's going to be like. Okay, guys, this has been a long and arduous journey. I'm happy that you were there with me. If you just skipped to the end to see what the bracket was like, welcome. And this is what we came up with. So essentially, according to lore, as we all know, Kazuya wins the whole thing. He beats Heihachi, he wins the whole thing, and he actually throws Heihachi off of a cliff at the end. So Kazuya was supposed to win the whole thing. He absolutely does. Kazuya also had some lore that needed to be addressed. First of all, Lee, he needed to fight Lee, and he needed to fight Paul. Those were two most important fights that needed to happen. In both brackets here, he does fight Lee, and he does fight Paul. Now, Jack was sent to this tournament to kill him. It was only fitting that Jack would go against Kazuya, which we have in both sides as well. The only difference here now is that we have King going against Kazuya and Yoshimitsu going against Kazuya in different brackets for the semis, respectively. And like I said, that could go either way depending on if it was a double elimination or single elimination. And that's where it becomes really important, because King does in fact get third place at this tournament. In both brackets, King gets third place officially. So let me go ahead and just tell you what I think, at least of which bracket I think was actually used in the tournament. And in my opinion, I believe we did a single elimination bracket. Now it seems kind of lame or kind of small, but my thought process is this, is that there was a pre-qualifying tournament, so to say, to get to this Sweet 16 essentially. I imagine there was maybe hundreds, if not maybe even 1,000 different fighters, and it all came down to this top 16 that we have here. Now, the Mishima Zaibatsu, which is the company that Heihachi owns and sponsored the tournament under, is a huge corporation. So they would have a lot of reach, being able to grab a whole bunch of people from different places. So essentially the first tournament here, I believe, was a single elimination. Pretty self-explanatory. In this scenario, Law and Wong drew. Because they drew, they would both be disqualified because they're like, hey, we're out to find the best. And, you two aren't the best and you're not going anywhere. So we're just going to DQ both of you. Which would make a lot of sense. There are certain spots that could be changed. For example, Yoshimitsu Ganryu could be up here. King could be up here. That type of thing. But there's not going to be too much change. I mean, Law and Wong fight. They could be down here and switched, vice versa. All that type of stuff. But I think this would be the most effective way that we could do this tournament. King here, losing to Paul or losing to Kazuya, it wouldn't have mattered because they were just both that good. And that would prove kind of a testament to King in a way that he could actually be in that same realm. Especially in the double elimination bracket here with King essentially winning the whole thing, starting out in the back, winning the whole thing all the way up to losers finals. I mean, it's really hard to think that King couldn't at least put up a fight with these guys. So yeah, guys, feel free to pause the video, take a look at the whole bracket. Again, if you see something that you don't like, put it in the comments. Tell me something that I might be missing. Like I said, I'm only human. I could miss something. But all in all, I'm extremely satisfied with this bracket. And this is exactly, probably, looking at it now, I had different opinions, especially Yoshimitsu. I wouldn't think that Yoshimitsu wouldn't get very far, but thinking about it now with all the lore and everything like that, it's quite possible he would make it this far. I mean, Michelle could beat Yoshimitsu, maybe, but he's also like the leader of like this Robin Hood clan. It's important that he would keep going in this tournament. So just to keep that distraction going so that his clan can steal the prize money. So yeah, there's a lot of different stuff in the back here that kind of helps some characters move forward more. Law doesn't have much of a story, so he doesn't go very far. Nina doesn't have much of a story, so she doesn't get very far. But yeah, let me know if you liked it. If you didn't like it, tell me why you didn't like it. Maybe we can improve the bracket in the future, or maybe we can even get Harada himself to at least tell us what the bracket would be like. Maybe he'll give the approval on what I think, because like I said, I think the single elimination bracket is the way that it was originally intended, whereas the double elimination bracket isn't that bad. It's actually a pretty good structure, essentially, for who would go against who. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it. I hope you also agree and are on my side as well. If not, just let me know. But please like, subscribe, and I may try to do the second Iron Fist tournament. I don't know. We'll see how this one turns out. But I'll see you guys later. Peace.